Web Development 101, Lesson 4, Part 2. So we're starting at level or module 5 right now, CSS classes. So in our last lesson, we learned how to target a unique element inside of a web page using a unique identifier ID attribute. Sometimes you want to classify specific elements and target them all at the same time. When we do that, then we use a class, and it allows us to target a group of elements by applying the class styling to those elements. I know you have to do it, so trust me. Big words, kind of scary. We will get through this together. So let's look at this. Let's say we want the first and second headings to have a custom font family, but only the first and second headings. We can give those elements a specific class by using a string of text with no spaces. So for example, this one is class fantasy. So let's say we want them all to have the fantasy font, but only the first and second headings that we have on the page. We can then do that, and the other ones will stay the way that they're supposed to, or the other way that we want them to be. So the CSS selector for this, instead of a hashtag, is a period. This gets a little bit difficult to remember, so I like to write on a Post-it note, and I think you should do the same. And I'm going to grab one out right now. The one I just found, someone wrote a little flip book of smiley faces to me, which made me laugh. So on my Post-it note with a marker, I'm going to write 1, and then ID hashtag. And then I'm going to write a greater than 1, so I want to style more than one thing, class, and a period. I know that if I'm only styling one unique thing, I'm going to use the ID and the hashtag. If I want more than one of some element to have the same styling, I'm going to use a class and then a period for the selector. So let's look at this example right down here because they're doing exactly this. So if you look, let's look down at the code. You can see that this heading 2 is Python 101 for the ID, and the class is fantasy. The second heading, this one, is Python 201, class is fantasy. And the third one is ID JS 101, and it has no class. Haha, that's funny, sorry. If you look up at the top in the style, both Python 101 and 102 have been styled. They are an ID and they use the hashtag. That makes Python 101's color blue and Python 201's color red. Those two both had the class fantasy. So, .fantasy makes it have a fantasy font. We can even have multiple different classes separated by spaces. So you can have multiple classes within a single element. I don't generally do this, but this one they wanted fantasy sideways. And this one is just sideways. So for the fantasy and sideways, notice for that class, you just put a space between the two of them. That's why when you make a name for a class, it can never have a space. So in this example, fantasy is the fantasy font and sideways is italic. So they did pretty much the same thing they were doing up here with the styles. However, for this dessert ID, they have two classes. All right, we're going to go back to links, and now we're going to tie some of this together. So we've been using text inside our anchor tag so far, but you can also have other elements inside of a link tag. So images can be used and turned into links. So the following example shows you how you can add a link to an image. It says try clicking on the image and it open a link. Well, let's look at what they're doing here before we do that. So if you look at the code, it says href equals tinker.com, and then image source and boatandwater.jpg, alt boat and water style with 100%. And there's the end of the image tag right here, and here's the end of the link. So this image is a link to Tinker. And note, they did not put underscore blank for a target, so it opened right in this page here instead of opening up into another page. Let's go through this example together. We're going to add, this is a long one, but this is going to be you actually using this right now. So we're going to go through a couple of, like 3 levels together, working on learning how to really put in these links and use them. So it says add at least 3 images to the web page. You can use these. Excellent. We're going to use the ones that they put in here. So they've given us this very basic skeleton of a web page. They have everything, including the style, put in there. There's no title though, which kind of doesn't make me happy because they're missing something, and you should always have a title, but whatever. We can add that in if we need to. So it says add 3 images. We're going to go to the body, and we're going to add in the images tag. So img src equals. And the images we're going to use are these. You can just Control C, Control V, and paste that image in. Otherwise, you're going to have to type it in, and I don't see the point in typing when you can copy and paste. I'm going to do a Alt equals, in case the picture doesn't show up, and it's a boat in water. Boat, multiple boats actually, boats in the water. And then I'm going to adjust the width a little bit, and I'm going to say width equals, let's do 50% so I can see where I am right now with it. You don't need to make it that small. I suppose I could even do 75. I just want you to be able to see my page and what I'm doing on it. Now remember, with that image, we don't need to end it except with the / and the end, because it all is one tag. It doesn't have an end tag. All right, let's add the next image. img src equals, and I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this lake and mountains. And I'll do an Alt equals lake by mountains, and width equals, I'm going to try that 75% again. Yeah, that's perfect. They must have found one. Oh, that's such a gorgeous picture. I love it. And let's grab this one. And copy and paste. That's an easy one. Now the reason we don't have an HTTP on these is because these images are held somewhere in the Tinker server. I don't know what this image is. Oh, river in the woods. I'm going to say river in the woods to be more specific. And width equals, we're going to try that 75% again. And end that tag. All right, now we got 3 gorgeous pictures. Wow, that makes me want to go kayaking. So we've done step 1. So take a look at my code. Let me squish my page over if it'll let me. It won't. I'll zoom out. That's not going to let me squish my page over either. I really don't like that. I can't make it bigger for you. Oh well. So my image tags are complete. You can pause and take a peek at this to make sure yours look the same as mine and that they're all showing up. It says add a link to each of these images and have the link go to a web page. You could use web pages such as these articles. We're going to use those because I don't want to go find something else. Hee. So we need to wrap each of these images within the link, because the whole image is the link. You have to nest the image inside the link. That's very important. So I'm going above the image. I'm going to do an href equals. Inside these quotes, I will be putting this hyperlink. I am not going to put a hover text on there. It's not my jam. I am, however, going to put a target because it's going to tell you this. So it opens in a new browser tab, and I told you this is my thing, equals underscore blank. I always like them to open in a separate tab. You must put this end caret right here, and then I'm going to tab in this image because I need to wrap that link around it. So look here. I really wish I could drag this page out for you right now. It would make me so happy. There we go. A at href equals. Here is the beginning part of the link. Here is the end tag. So here's the beginning tag and the end tag, and I wrap it around the image tag. And the image tag does not have an ending. It's built right in. Okay? So I'm going to do this for each of them. So on this one, I'm going to say href equals, and I'm going to link this wiki lake page. And again, I'm going to do that target, and you can copy and paste it if you don't want to type this, but for me, that's not worth it because that was an easy type. If you go up here and if you go backspace and hit enter, it'll tab it in where it should be anyway. You can also just press the space bar, it's fine. Do not forget to end the link, and an A is a link, anchor, link anchor. Finally, we have the river. I'm going to copy this and do that. Oops. And end that. I want to end that link. Now, here is my code. Each image is wrapped inside of a link. And those links are going to open in new tabs. So if I preview this, I'm going to do the split screen so you can see it. This one will now open wiki page about boats. This one will open a wiki page about what a lake is, and same thing here for the river, but it'll go to what a river is. Yay. So that is using an image as a link, and it is a very common practice. Pause this if you need to. Check your code. And remember, it's going to give you that solution, or pause mine if you're stuck. All right, link scrolling. So when you click on a link to open a page, the browser opens the page and always scrolls to the top of the page. Even if the page is super long and you have to scroll down to see more content when the page loads, it always goes to the top of the page by default. Sometimes you want it to open a page and scroll down to a very specific place within that page. So we can use the hashtag symbol to do that by having it scroll to a specific ID as soon as we open the page. So to do that, so in this example, it says you can link, in the following example, we have two headings, one with the ID foods and the other with the ID desserts. And we can scroll down to the favorite desserts by adding the link ahref equals hashtag desserts. And then the text that goes for that link says scroll to my favorite desserts. So when I click on this, it will take me to that point on the page. Isn't that great? Right where you want to go. Favorite foods, favorite desserts. Because those have IDs that we can then use as a link. So let's do an example of this together. It says create a list of links that when clicked on, scroll down to the web page to the correct image. At least 3 images to the web page. You can use these: boat and water, mountains, river. Write a short description of each image and format these as a list. Good Lord. All right. We already did this on this page. So what you're going to do is go back to images as links, and you are going to copy this code. We're going to copy, Control C, hop back over to 7, and Control V. Now we're above it, we're going to create a list. So we've added the images to the web page because we already have them because I told you to do it. Now it says write a short description of each image and format these as a list. So we're going to do a list. So unordered list. Oops. And unordered list. And then we're going to do a list item. And this first list item is going to be boats. Haven't heard that in a while. And the next one will be, what was the next one? Lake and mountains. I'll just say mountains. I'll say lake, actually, because I think it links to that lake page. And that list item, and then list item. What was that last picture? Oh, a river. Okay, so we've got those 3 lists, and it says write a short description of each item and form it as lists. So I'm going to say boats in water at sunset. This one is a lake at the base of a mountain. Makes me want to go kayaking. All of it does. River winding through the woods. So those are now my 3 little descriptions they told me to write. So we did this by copying and pasting from 6 because I'm not making you do that a second time, though I probably should to practice, but that's silly. Short description, it should be placed at the top of the web page. All right, add links to the list item so they scroll down to the correct image when clicked. All right, here's what we got to do. These images need to have an ID added to them. So we're going to go to this first image right here, okay? And before the source, I'm going to say ID equals, and I'm going to say boat. And for the lake and mountain, I'm just going to say ID equals lake. I'm big on very small ones that make sense. And then on this last one, let me just open it like this so you can see just what I'm doing here. On this one, before the source, I'll say ID equals, and we'll say river. You could be more specific than that, but any ID that you have, all of the text must be smooshed together into one word, so you would use camel case. So if you were going to say lake and mountains, so lake and mountains, like that. I don't know if I could spell like that. Keep the words together. Use camel case where you capitalize every other word except the first one. But I'm going to do this simple one here, okay? And it says, now add links to the list item so they scroll down to the correct image when linked. So I'm going to say list item. I'm going to put in an ahref equals. Now this time, instead of linking to a web page, I'm linking to hashtag boat. And I'm going to put that, I'm wrapping it around that list item, and A. So let's look at that first one, okay? I'm going to open the double pane here. When I click here, it goes right to that image, all right? Let's do the second one. So go in front of the list item because we always wrap our link around the tag that we're linking. So A, href equals lake. Notice I'm not putting anything else in this. It's a very simple tag. I don't want it to open another page. It's going down the page, and I don't need to really give it any kind of a hover or anything, though I could. And then let's do the last one. Ahref equals river, and end that tag and wrapping it all around the list item. So now these three, when I click on these, oh, I forgot the hashtags. Oops. There we go. Now they'll work. That goes right to that image, and this one goes right down to that image. They're not that far down the page. If we made them way bigger, it would have a further way for it to go down the page, but you get the point. It's linking off or down to those elements within that page. So again, if you struggle with that, please pause and look at my code right now. I have it all indented, all pretty, so it makes it a little bit easier to follow. You can also then click on the check code. I do have open and close LIs. Li. Don't ignore this because this is right. It is better than theirs, actually. So they don't know what they're talking about. Again, pause it, take a peek. All right, styling links. So we know how links work and how awesome they can be and powerful. Sometimes we want them to look a little different though, because this boring blue links are not always great. So a lot of times we make them look like buttons because that makes, if you're going somewhere else, a button is helpful. And it can be really hard when you have the blue underline link. It distinguishes it from the rest of the text because you know that, but sometimes you want it to stick out a little bit more or style it to make your page look cooler. So links is buttons. So we've already learned all the CSS properties that we need to know to make a button. We definitely know all of these things. These are the basic things that we need to make a button: padding, background, border, font weight, and color. And that's even more advanced. If we just used padding, background, and border, we would be able to make a button. So this button has an orange background. The border is a 1 pixel solid gray. And the font is bold. The color is black instead of blue. And it has padding around the element of 5 pixels and 10 pixels. Now you'll notice they've made this into a class called MyButton. We can turn anything that we want into a button by using that class. So I could go in here and say ahref equals, it's not going anywhere, so we're just leaving that where it's not going anywhere, class equals MyButton, and now I'm going to make a button called home. Now I have a home button as well. They're not going to go anywhere because they're not linked to anything, but that's what this does. I could make anything I wanted to any button now by simply using this class because I've done all that styling already. It's pretty cool, actually. We can use text decoration to make our buttons look cool. So you can style it, you can remove the text underline by using none to get rid of it. So if we did text decoration none up here, we could get rid of that the underline that's on it. We could do a line over it instead. We could also do a strike through. So we could create a navigation menu with links for our About Me project. So let's experiment with 2 different designs: a list of text links and inline of links styled like buttons. Okay, list of text links, add links to each of the items. Ooh, look at this. So the first thing we're going to do is change each of these list items within this list to be a link. And we're just going to have it be a blank link because we don't really have the web pages in there yet. So we're going to wrap around the list item. So I'm going to say ahref equals, and I'm just going to do a hashtag for right now. And end that at the end of that list item. So I'm going to move this in a little bit, and and I will do the same thing here for the About Me, ahref equals, and I'll do that hashtag for now, and tab that in a little bit, and end that link. And then again on the last one, href equals hashtag end a. Whoops, you need to be on the next line down. Okay, and then there's that end of the list. So if I check my code now, I should have lists all the way down. Now, we're going to style each of them to look like these buttons right here, okay? So the first thing that they did with the button at the top was to do some padding. And they did like a 5 pixel and then a 10 pixel. So 5 on the top and bottom and 10. So that spaced all those words out a little bit from each other, so that works. And then if we look at these examples that we did in here, they did a background color. So we're going to do a background color. So background, and it looks like it's purple. Yeah, fair. The font family looks like it's sans serif. They don't have any text decoration on it, so I'm going to say text decoration and none. So that got rid of the underline. And the color of the font is white. And the font weight looks like it's bold. That looks pretty much exactly what they have on there. Let's hit the check code and see if we're right. Yep, that's it. All of that made those little links turn into buttons. Isn't that groovy? If you need time, pause that and put it on here because we're going to do a project next, okay? And this project I'm going to do in a completely different video because this video is way too long.